Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Joe Morales, and I'm online tonight on behalf of Marlene's Lessons and Papayas. Spring is a great time to start rebuilding and forming habits that actually stick and are beneficial for you. Foundational steps is a great time. And that's exactly what we're here to do tonight. We have Dr. Evelyn with us. She is a naturopathic and integrative medicine doctor based in Washington. Specializes in hormones, gut health, and longevity. And tonight she is wrapping up our Spring Reset series, full of practical, real-world patterns around sleep, stress, daily rhythms, and nourishment. And so far, we've learned a lot of things that really add up to big picture changes. Dr. Evelyn, thank you so much for being here with us. I'll turn it over to you, and thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you so much for having me tonight. And thank you so much for coming back. And if you haven't, we already have the recordings and the slides from previous. So as long as you register, we will get you covered with that. And I am Dr. Evelyn Le Ellis, a naturopathic doctor. So I practice in Olympia, Washington. And over the past two sessions, we talked about something many people experience but rarely have clearly explained. We talked about why energy doesn't always bounce back as quickly as expected after winter as a part one, 2 weeks ago, why cravings can feel stronger even when you're trying to eat well. And that was part two last week. And why weight sometimes feel resistant and why mood can feel less steady than before. And that was part two from last week. And one important idea we introduced is this. Your body is not random. It follows the patterns. And as long as we know and have the awareness of the signals, then that will give us a clue of what your body is telling us. And here is what often happens next. People will start make changes, adjusting diet, trying supplements, improving routines. And sometimes they feel a little better, but not always consistently better. Raise your hand if that happened to you before. Some it does happen to me and my clients. And that can feel discouraging, can feel like blaming, like why I'm trying doing this, but it doesn't really work. What's going on? And because we are putting the effort, but still wondering what actually applies to us. So today we're going to talk about how to prepare your body for the rest of the year in a more strategic way. And often any strategy we implement take about 3 months and reassess to make sure that is going the right direction that we're looking for. Time does heal. Not by doing more, but by understanding which areas may matter most for your physiology. Sometime in the treatment plan, we can really give you every list of everything, more than 3 things to do, like sleep, drinking more water, or doing specific intervention, the medication or supplement. It got overwhelmed sometimes. The body starts to get overwhelmed. So therefore, layer things in one by one can really, really help. And because when we reduce the guessing, progress often becomes more efficient and more sustainable. Who's there that used to like go to the different pharmaceutical place or pharmacy health food store, look at the supplement probiotics and wonder which one can apply to me? There's a lot of different products out there, right? So provider can really help to screen through what strain of the probiotic or what type of supplement can really help you to move forward during that time, specifically for your markers and for your body physiology. So for those I have not met yet, I work in integrative and functional medicine, helping individuals understand how factors like stress physiology, metabolism, hormones, and environmental puts influence long-term health outcomes. My focus is helping people connect the dots between symptoms and underlying patterns so decisions feel clearer and more personalized. And I take pride into the time that I spend with my clients, so therefore they can know and have the explanation of things they go through. Because a lot of time in the medical setting, we have that very short visit and not a lot of eye contact or the conversation of the why, the reason behind the treatment plan. So I would encourage to advocate for yourself when you go see the provider, have different opinions to make sure that you got to understand for yourself for long-term investment, because that will be a ROI for your long-term health. So today, how we will cover how to think about health planning over the next 6 to 9 months, why different people respond differently to the same approach. For example, my husband and I, we eat the same food, anti-inflammatory, but for him, it worked out differently. He feels calmer, but for me, I feel like I'm lacking something. I need some meat here. And how we can sometimes use additional information when appropriate to help guide more targeted support. And I think the word precision kind of buzzword nowadays, but more target for what you need instead of the one size fit all for different medication uses for a one dose at a time. And the goal is not to test everything. The goal is to understand what matters most for you so your body can function with more stability, resilience, and predictability over time. So let me share my screen with you for today's talk. Right there. So that beautiful picture right here is my office right there on the top left. So in part one, let's review a little bit. We discussed how energy is influenced by the nervous system, rhythm. We do have a rhythm with the nature. And thankfully, we live in the West Coast where we have a lot of nature, sunshine when there's a specific place to really time ourselves with that. Cortisol timing and metabolic stability. So we saw that persistent fatigue is often related to how the body adapts to stress. Past stress, the big T stress, which is the big T trauma, or the small T trauma, or the stress event, good stress, negative stress, pressure, overload from the daily activity and responsibility. And seasonal transition from the external world can also apply that stress in our body. And in part two last week, we expanded that understanding to include cravings, weight changes, and mood patterns, and how these are influenced by blood sugar regulation, hormone signaling, like we talk about leptin, ghrelin, thyroid for metabolism as a gate and the speed, and recovery capacity. Together, these symptoms often reflect how the body is managing energy demand. Remember, we talk about the energy storage, conservation. Therefore, your body sometimes feels tired because it doesn't want to spend energy anywhere else because of stress. And today, we shift the focus toward how to use this understanding to plan more strategically for the month ahead, more practical. So progress becomes more consistent and less dependent on trial and error. So one question I often hear is, why do some people seem to make progress faster, even when many people are putting in similar effort? Often the difference is not about motivation. We can motivate ourselves, and sometimes it helps a lot. And at the end of the day, how much more motivation do we need until we actually understand what are we needing to support our body and take the action for that one thing at a time, right? One action at a time. And many people try multiple approaches, different diets. How many diets do we have here? Atkins, we have like Mediterranean, we have the carnivore diet, and etc. Vegan diet, vegetarian, etc. Supplements for one magnesium, we have multiple different type of magnesium citrate, oxide, and different type of magnesium, and also sometimes a combination as well. Exercise routines such as HIIT workout, high intensity interval workout, cardio, stretching, mindfulness, which one is good? And sometimes combination as well. But the results feel inconsistent because they're not sure which factors are most relevant to their physiology. And of course, keeping track of your diary to find out when we do this way, how do you feel? And these approaches of nutrition and exercise vary during different stages of life. So when I ask people to do the tracking, it's very intuitive to reflect back. How do you feel this month compared to 3 months ago when you try different things? And the more data that we collect, the more you were able to reflect back of how your body changes. It truly helped to figure out what is the next step we're going to move forward together as a therapeutic relationship. And when we better understand which systems are most involved, whether that relates to stress pattern, metabolism, digestion, or hormone rhythm, decisions become more focused. And that focus will help us drive forward to what we can do. And when decisions are more focused, progress often becomes more efficient. So the goal is not to do more things. The goal is to identify which things matter more first. And that's a great way to think about that focus. So when we look at the long-term health outcomes for the future to plan out for the year, three core systems tend to influence how consistently the body can adapt and recover. So we talk about consistent. The first is a nervous system for sure. It's a baseline. Whenever we're out of the normal state, like there was a statement, change your state when you're in a state of not very stable or happy, the instability kicks in, and therefore our nervous system going to the fight or flight most often. And your nervous system influences how your body responds to stress, how well you recover. When people are under that much strong emotional or even body physiology instability, the recovery takes longer. And I have a case where women in their 60s, and I help a lot with hormone support. And when she realized she had the normal level of her estrogen, as if she was in her 50 or 40, she recovered after the knee surgery much easier and more ease compared to when she doesn't have the hormone. That vitality was able to help her with the recovery. And how deeply you sleep, because when we sleep, is a restoration of our detox pathway to move things out and restore our level of calmness as well. And how steady your energy feels throughout the day. If the nervous system is constantly in a high alert state, it becomes more difficult for the body to repair and regulate other systems effectively. And I say this with the empathy for situations such as like divorce. I have a client who's going through that. No matter how much we want to lecture the goodness of the nervous system, it takes other people into your life, right? And sometimes people do not have your good intention in mind, and the relationship becomes very difficult for the person to regulate themselves. So I truly understand nervous system, but when that time was able to be stable, to have that calmness in the body, have that set the time out, just the boundary very strictly. So therefore you can have that peace of mind. And therefore that will help gradually stabilize the nervous system. The second pattern is a metabolic function. Metabolism determines how efficiently your body converts food into usable energy. And the food can come from different categories as well: fat, protein, healthy fat, or fibers, or even any type of spices for plants and fibers and herbs, etc., into usable energy. Some food, like high inflammatory, may not go into usable. You may use your energy to even break them down even more. So we have to think about which is more comfortable, the thing that you will want to do. When metabolism is stable, energy tends to feel more consistent. And this goes with people who have reactive hypoglycemia. I have a case this week where the patient had a long-term insulin resistance, and the hormone keep bouncing up and down, especially when she eat even healthy now, like avocado for healthy fat, grass-fed beef, fibers for nutrition, a little bit of white rice still because of the natural culture, but still have lentil and quinoa. When she eat, that GCGM keep like popping up and also drop significantly. So that's the stability that we're working on. When the drops happen, then people feel tired, fatigue, and they keep very frustrating with weight loss because insulin resistance will want you not to lose weight because it gets used to it. The stress load from the metabolic load. So, um, so when metabolism is stable, energy tends to feel more consistent. Cravings are often more manageable, and weight regulation becomes more predictable. So that's easier said than done. And when it needs to be a specific case, then potentially advocate for yourself with a provider. And the third pattern is a hormone communication. We have the brain. Inside the brainstem, there is a lot of hormone being released. And from that releasing hormone in the brain, it goes down to your original organ, like the thyroid, the adrenal gland, uterus, ovaries, or for male, it's the testes, heart, gut, etc. So hormones act as a messengers that help different systems coordinate timing, energy use, appetite signals, and recovery processes. So just imagine in a society, in a system, there are so many different departments, so many different companies, for example, or even human jobs, services that can really connect each other to really work and functioning well. Similar with that capacity in the body, each of those hormones has a capacity and function to do. And when one out is out of balance over time, it will tell your body, hey, pay attention to me. And when hormone signaling is more balanced, the body tends to respond more smoothly to lifestyle changes. Sometimes we can do too much of a shock from a lifestyle changes, such as usually we don't walk or we don't rest, and all of a sudden you do a lot of exercise. Your body will be like, what is going on? Then the shock coming in and the cortisol will spike at the beginning. So taper into those activities would really help, and your body will tell you as long as we listen. And when these three areas, nervous system, metabolism, and hormone communication are supported together, progress tends to feel more sustainable and less effortful over time. So we almost get to the point of the lab. So one important concept to understand is that similar symptoms do not always come from the same underlying pattern. Let me give you an example. Two people may both experience fatigue, cravings, or weight changes. They may even follow similar nutrition and exercise habits, but their bodies may respond differently. It leading to body image, leading into different body type, and nothing wrong with it, right? This is because physiology is influenced by many variables, and sometimes genetic, sometimes where you were born, sometimes where you were eating the food that you grow up until you move to a different state or different area, and including stress history, sleep patterns, digestive function, nutrient status, hormone rhythm, and environmental exposure. So when progress feels slower than expected, it doesn't necessarily mean something is wrong. It often means the approach may need to be more individualized, switch tweaks, make some changes. When we better understand personal patterns, we can prioritize more effectively, which often leads to more steady and predictable improvement over time. So for example, I used to live in Texas for 8 years, and over there we have so much sunshine. And I grew up in Vietnam where we always have sunshine. It's burn our skin, it's hot. When I go up to Washington, moved here, and I wonder, rain, that sounds cool. The first time we can see snow, what a fun idea. And I started to feel this winter blue, like what is going on? This never happened, where I feel like I just want to feel sad. So that is that variable of where you come from. And that vitamin D level deficiency, omega-3 with deficiency, it's a lot of vitamin was low during that time. So how we identify patterns more clearly. Up to this point, we've been discussing pattern based on symptoms, how you feel. And symptoms are useful signals. They tell us how the body is functioning in real time. But sometimes symptoms alone do not show the full picture. For example, people may have bloating, may have constipation, diarrhea, and we think, oh, you may have just irritable bowel syndromes. However, if we look into, do you feel bloating after you eat? Do you feel bloating with a specific food like apple or any type of high sulfur food? then we also think, oh, it may be deeper, like a small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So those symptom overlap itself. And for thyroid symptom or even hormone deficiency, fatigue, feeling crash in the afternoon, those are like thyroid deficiency and adrenal deficiency. So sometimes when we don't really know what is exactly going on, we slap a bunch of things, like just hoping that it's gonna happen, like a hot potato, right? And especially when progress feels inconsistent or slower than expected. So in certain situations, additional information can help clarify which system may need more support. And once we know, then we better have a better idea or the data to focus on that individualization. And this is where targeted testing can sometimes be helpful. I say sometimes because we can be over tested as well. And there are so many specialty tests. I will show you later. And people can spend thousands of dollars to figure out what is going on, especially for chronic illness. Testing is not always necessary, but when used appropriately, knowing what symptom you have and pair with a test to make sure we rule other things out is really help. It may help identify patterns related to stress physiology, metabolism, digestion, or nutrient needs. And for example, metabolism, cholesterol, diabetes, testing H1C, is that enough? And sometimes with people with insulin resistance, I have to really add on fasting insulin, leptin. What is your level right there? Because it could affect your nutrient in terms of like feeling hunger or not feeling hunger at a certain time. And the goal is not to test everything. The goal is to reduce guesswork and prioritize what we may be most relevant for that individual. And sometimes when it comes to the point of we have no idea what's causing you chronic illness, and chronic illness coming into like brain fog, feeling tired, weakness, and they rule out all autoimmune diseases, gut issue, etc. And we still cannot figure out what was the root cause. Then environmental toxin may come in and say, hey, you may expose to something very long time ago, heavy metal, or even BPA from plastic, or even glyphosate from food, wheat especially. And that is a root that most of us don't even think about. Now, next, I'll briefly walk through a few simplified examples of how this information can sometimes guide more focused decision making. So this is the first case. I'll show you some of those real case scenarios that I have in my practice. This is an example of a common pattern related to energy and stress rhythm. And the 52 years old female presents with the afternoon fatigue about 2 or 3 p.m., wired at night, could not sleep, being disrupted about 1 or 2 a.m. in the morning, and have a hard time falling off sleep. And belly weight resistance, crash about that afternoon, stiff joints when waking up, and pain during sex. So they were doing many positive things already, such as eating relatively well, staying active, but energy still felt inconsistent. So when we look more closely, the pattern suggests that the stress response system was activating at times when the body ideally would be transitioning toward rest, such as workout later at night. That's a time when we're supposed to transition into rest, but when we just tell ourselves, we haven't done this checklist, let's just check the box, go to the gym, right? The cortisol, one of the body's primary stress hormones, normally follows a daily rhythm, higher early in the day, and you can look at the graph on the right side right here. And this is the cortisol level of the flat line associated with flat line, where the black line is a person's result. The blue line is a low result, and the red line is a high range. So blue to red is a range it can be. So the range of the person that she had was she had low cortisol even when she wake up. It's supposed to go up. And she had low cortisol around midday. So low about 4 p.m. Low at nighttime low is normal. However, low during the day telling me there's a chronic stress or chronic fatigue happens so far. And we want to raise that cortisol up to something is inhibited. Could be a high stress job, and the person is working as a firefighter. So that's the reason why it happened as a female. That's interesting, right? So in this case, the rhythm appears shifted later in the day and support a focus on improving timing signals for the body. And I just recommend for the very basic of like exposure pattern, mealtime consistency to make sure she does eat. Because sometimes when you're busy, we don't eat enough. And we think about our belly weight and we don't even eat enough. So that can also cause a cortisol level, and it will be depleted if we don't have enough nutrition in our body. And for her, I recommend for the adaptogen. Adaptogen can have the adrenal cortex, which is additional adrenal from pigs as well. It sounds crazy where they just have one pig has adrenal gland grinding over, making the tablet, and we eat them or we take them, and that will raise our adrenal gland up. So that can help raise the cortisol level. Also with paired with other tonification adaptogens such as ashwagandha, magnolia, holy basil, tulsi, etc. And that will help to make the pattern stabilize when the adrenal cortex is already increasing the level. We want to increase and we want to stabilize over time. So when I recommend adrenal cortex, it's not going to be a long term because it comes to the point where the person knows that she needs to rest, take a break more often, then her cortisol will come back to normal. When it comes back to the normal range, we don't want to add too much adrenal on top. We only want that tonification happen over time. So we keep that adrenal tonification there, but may remove the adrenal cortex when time comes. And often I do about 3 months support and then recheck in about 3 months just to make sure the body has enough time to do things. On the left side, you also see that I think about when people have wired night sleep issue, especially pain during sex for female, then I'm thinking about their hormone may be deficient already. So there's a tracking of time right here from 3 years, 2022 to 2025. And I just want to point out a trend. In the beginning, she was okay, normal, 118 of the active estradiol, which is a good estradiol we use. Estrone is a non-good one. We don't want them to be high. If they are higher than the estradiol, that means your liver does not detox the hormone. We want the hormone to be in the right pattern and ratio of the active versus the harmful one. So over time, we realize about a year after, suddenly the drops, right? And this women have a skip period sometimes, so it's not a regular cycle anymore. And then you see a year after, 2024, it significantly dropped. And now this estrone, which is a harmful one, become higher than the active one. That's not going to be the good thing. And that low estradiol will impact her symptoms. It will tell a lot of different stories. Will we know if we don't test? We can know, but we have no idea what is her baseline. If we do something, where do we go higher or how do we go lower? So therefore, the tracking really help us to finalize what's going to be your dosage over time to help. And we initiate the hormone replacement, and I like to use, and I prefer in the practice, bioidentical from plant-based, while yam, soy, compounding pharmacy can do that. However, some clients just love to do their insurance coverage, so therefore we have to go with patches or progesterone oral, completely okay. And we just initiated estradiol, progesterone, and the number go up, this number right here, as if she was in her 30s or 20s, depending on what the level look like. That is a little higher, 261, but there is a little certain level, and also I pair with how they feel. If they feel good, and also a little bit more of the activation stimulation from the estrogen or breast tenderness, I immediately need to go back down for the dosage. So tracking is important. That is case one about hormone rhythm, cortisol, and hormone support. Now let's talk about case two about digestion. And there's a comparison of two tests right here. So this case relates to cravings, digestion, and mental clarities, gut-brain access, right? This individual experienced frequent sugar cravings. bloating after meals and brain fog, especially in the afternoon. Even trying to eat a balanced meal, cravings felt strong and difficult to manage consistently. So in a situation like this, digestion and the microbiome can sometimes influence how satisfied we feel after eating and how stable our energy feels between meals. The gut communicates with the brain through multiple pathways, including neurotransmitter signaling, we can measure them, and inflammation pathways, we can measure them as well. When a microbial environment is less diverse or imbalanced, it may influence hunger signals, cravings, and mood stability. So if you look at the map on the left, and I have some labs that I used, depending on the situation. Previously, there was some other labs such as LabCorp, Dr. Data, touch urine testing. LabCorp can do for your hormone too, CRT saliva, or Vibrant Wellness. So you can also see and pick my brain if you have questions later. So the left is a map of before, the right is a map after. And this lab from GI Effect is separated into 5 different patterns to find out if you need some digestive support, if you need more inflammation support, if you need more microbial support for diversity, if you need the probiotic for the metabolic balance, or you need some antimicrobial support because of some potential infection that need us to dig deeper more. So all of these do affect how your gut feels. And because of the gut, when we have a certain inflammation or bacteria, then the brain fog does happen too. So you see that the higher the number in the red circle is the need more support. So over time, when we address a certain thing, such as the balance of the short-chain fatty acids in the gut and more diverse food, then the score goes down to 3. So therefore, it's less concern. And for the dysbiosis, however, there's some more of the bacteria and yeast that exist. So the score go up. And sometimes when we eat like gluten or yeast, that food is high in yeast or sugar, likely thing will shift up and down, very variable, especially including stress during that season as well. And this is about 1 year apart for that lab. And the last one is an infection of 3, but this person also have the 6 going up a little bit as well for any type of that parasitic or pathogenic. Once a person may have the prone to be infection, we want to really make sure that there's no recurrent happening, because once the gut becomes compromised or leaky gut, intestinal junction gut become compromised, then things will become more likely to recurrent situation again. So we want to really improve that gut immune function, like IgG or colostrum, digestive enzyme, if bacteria are growing more and stay there. And the food sit in the gut so long, so we want to really get things out of the body. So the gut communicates with the brain through multiple pathways. We talk about that part. And for over time, for this patient, when we really help with any type of digestive support, the digestion and microbiome can sometimes influence how satisfied we feel after eating and how stable energy feels between meals. So with her, craving become less intense when we help with digestion, and the digestion felt more comfortable and energy become more steady. So the key takeaway is that cravings are not always about willpower. Sometimes they reflect how the gut environment is influencing the signaling related to appetite or energy regulation. And I have many clients who travel, who love to travel abroad, eating different food, different like Korean spicy, and then meat in Europe. And when they come back, gluten is always good, though. They always talk about like bread in there. They feel nothing compared to here. When they come back, often bloating is the first thing I hear, sometimes diarrhea. And then we just test for these things, like what is going on with your gut? Then we know, oh, when we eat different type of food, the food stays too much, then we need some digestive enzyme support. So that is a big thing too. So now, Move on to case number 3. This one is about the metabolic fatigue and recovery capacity. If anyone hear about mitochondrial dysfunction, this is specifically dive deeper into the energy pathway production from the Krebs cycle, which you see on the map on the left, the cell. They go through many pathways. And in medical school, we have to memorize these things. Thank God I don't have to do it again. And many nutrients, meaning micronutrients, if you have the resource, you can really zoom out, that they need the B complex, B2, B3, B5, magnesium, copper, iron, glutathione, cysteine, carnitine, CoQ10, etc., to really move these cycles. And as we age, our cycle is not as fast as before because the speed from thyroid will affect this. So that's important to note. In this case, it's a 6 years old male, presents for a low stamina, slow recovery, that workout, but doesn't feel as if he can do that workout again 2 days after, even though have 1 day in between of recovery. Feeling depleted despite effort and history of high cholesterol. So there are some metabolic issues there too. So this test on the left is an organic acid to find out what is the byproducts of the pathway that your body produces. And that goes through the urine because your kidney will filter those through, and then the kidney can filter those in the urine, and urine can pick up those metabolites, which is the products that got broken down from the pathway. Boston Heart Cardio is a good thing for the heart, which include cholesterol deep dive. They can measure your CoQ10, your sizes of your non-good cholesterol LDL and good cholesterol HDL, very, very deep. Sometimes I use the NMR lipid from a LabCorp. Micronutrient test can be a great thing to do. If you hear about pill pack, where they use your microbiome from either Alcat or Vibrant Wellness, and they will get that micronutrient, which means how much B12 you have, B1, B6, B7, CoQ10, vitamin D, vitamin C, magnesium, copper, zinc, etc. All of those mineral and nutrients. They come with a report. They push out into the analytical into how much do you need in a capsule per day for AM and PM, and then 2 packs, and then you will take them based on your individual lab at the moment of taking the test. It was fun. One patient who did that, and she felt extremely better because that lab and the analytical know exactly what she needs instead of buying different bottle over the counter and just guessing how much it is. It's another way of doing it. So this example relates to the recovery capacity and how efficiently the body produces energy at the cellular level, at the cell, not just the organ, smaller, deeper. And this individual described feeling that tired and sleep duration seemed inadequate, and exercise felt draining, more draining than energizing, and recovery between busy days felt slow. Situation like this, we sometimes consider whether body has sufficient nutritional cofactors, which means those nutrients of B, C, D, E, CoQ10, etc., required for cellular energy production. And energy production occurs in the mitochondria, which is a cell power in the cell, often described as the energy centers of the cell, and this process depends on the adequate level of specific vitamins, minerals, and amino acids. And amino acid is a very important thing. It's a byproduct of the protein. And as we age, as our digestive enzymes go down, we tend to not breaking down such as protein like meat that easy. If anyone who have an issue, like you eat meat, but you don't feel like it going anywhere, it just stay there longer as we age, that is common because of lack of stomach acid. And sometimes when we think we have the acid or GERD reflux because foods they sit there without coming down, then become to go backward to your esophagus and go back to your mouth, and you feel sour. You feel like, maybe GERD happened. So there's the thought process. whether we have lack of acid or we have too much acid, and that's really leading to the issue of GER or reflux, acid reflux. So it's a trial, and I would say omeprazole that most GI doctor prescribe when you say you may have acid reflux is a trial to find out if that works better. If it doesn't work, please stop because omeprazole has long-term side effects. It's supposed to be short-term, not to use for long-term. And support in this case focus on replenishing key nutrient involved in metabolic pathways and supporting the recovery rhythms. And over time, the individual reported improved stamina. And I also test the testosterone for this male too, because with his age and low stamina, and when low stamina, they don't feel like they can work out, the depression happens. It's very hard for man. And more consistent energy throughout the day and better resilience to physical and mental demands. And the key takeaway here is that persistent fatigue is always about effort level. Sometimes the body requires additional resources to produce energy efficiently. And you can see on the right side, I think the lab for the lipo profile is a little bit. So you can see total cholesterol. Let me go back. In the middle, 213 at first, gradually goes down to 181. We do some initiation of triglycerides. Statin patient decline, so therefore we use the triglyceride CoQ10 to do that. And that, you can see the LDL-P is a particle size. How many total particles? They have small, medium, large size of a non-good cholesterol. HDL also have sizes, therefore you can see under the total cholesterol row, you can see HDL-P, which is a particle. We want to see the particle because the most important thing to really prevent is a small LDL-P. If those levels go up too high, above 500, don't worry about the range. Too high, then we'll carefully want to make sure they are not that high. Imagine a blood vessel or a pipe. You have too much dust in there, little rock in there is a medium size, or a big chunk of something stuck in there. When you flush the water through, big chunk can go faster, but smaller dust, they come together and they just stick together even harder to really get out. Similar with a blood vessel. Small LDL, small things are more dangerous because they're more likely to build up that atherosclerosis or the fat blockage in the blood vessel. And over time, it becomes blocked, the blood vessel. So we really want to deep dive into those things. And the last thing that IR score is insulin resistance. I have to go deep dive when people tell me they have metabolic issue, because if insulin resistance is a problem, then issue with utilizing the energy will not be as efficient. So we want to really impact the insulin sensitivity in using herbs, medication if needed. Herb can really help as well. And over time, as you see from 2022 to 2025, the patient become much more balanced, which is, I did my job when I see those happen. So next and the last case, this is about environmental toxins that we talk about. And sometimes it can lead to the DNA genetic testing too. DNA is a one in your lifetime to test for it, to find out what's the pattern. If one day there's a stress happen, life event happen, metabolic of high cholesterol happen, whether that will prone toward which direction can be. For example, there was a gene that can tell you if you take statin, your body may associate with more muscle weakness as a side effect or not. So that can tell us if one day we do these type of intervention, how your body would respond to that. There's a gene about vitamin D receptor mutation. And if that happened, and one day you live in a situation in Pacific Northwest and doesn't have a lot of vitamin D from the nature, then you will know, hey, using extra vitamin D sources can really help because we lack of the ability to receiving that vitamin D receptor. So 39 years old male present with brain fog, sensitivity to chemicals, meaning laundry, detergents, even foods, and texture of the bed, the chair, the clothes, feeling exhaustion and can only focus for 2 or 3 hours max per day. And this relates to chronic symptom or chronic illness. It's a pretty broad because it's a diagnosis of exclusion. You exclude people who have autoimmunity, Lyme, or any type of mold decision. Then toward the end, what left, right? Chronic illness. So this is a client of mine, and that was very difficult to treat. So we just want to manage as we can. And these are some labs I'm using to test for environmental, such as Vibrant Wellness Total Tox Burden. I love this test. US Biotech, Mosaic, or Diagnostics. So a field picture that I took out from a big, large profile, they can test for your phthalates. Who here used to do cosmetic that you didn't know before, but they have phthalates in them, right? I didn't know until I realized, oh, the environmental working group, they come out, be careful of phthalates because they can be endocrine disruptor. What that means is they block your hormones. Remember different signals from your brain coming out? They block those hormones. So therefore, your organ doesn't receive the signal. And as a result, a lot of symptoms from brain fog, weight, etc. happen that we don't know why. Similar symptom, but very different underlying cause. Parabens is also, they can really measure the parabens as well from detergent, from laundry. BPA, if you hear about, if the products say non-BPA, be careful. They may have BPP, BPF, which is a very similar class of products and is still considered to be environmental toxins. So this lab is deep enough for urine to go measure. Mycotoxin can also measure whether you have mold in your body, in your gut, etc. And that's a deep thing to really, really screen out, especially in this Pacific Northwest or Texas and Austin have a lot of clinics doing that too. Any mold, any rainy, any moisture, lots of moisture. You want to really rule them out. Glyphosate, if you see this, and there's so many talk about the glyphosate of how it can impact your gut, your leaky gut, so they can really measure. And these clients that the person have a few red lines, the red result on the mark on the red result right here, which means there's a loss of environmental toxins right there. So if you test for it, you will find something, and that just help us to give us a data to move forward with. And sometimes it feels like, oh my God, I am so sick after receiving the data. If that causing that psychological worriness, I'm very careful with testing because I don't want to add more tests until they're really ready for it. We can do a gentle detox. The lab just help us to go deeper dive into a bigger detox when people are really ready to get that done. So now you say what these cases have in common is different symptoms, different lab insights, but the same goal, that reduce the friction in the system. And when the body has its needs, the function is more efficiently. So prepare for the next 6 to 9 months. I would love anyone who listened to this talk so far for 3 sessions to focus on that consistent rhythm. And the next slide, there will be some personal plan that you can really deep dive into them. One, you stick with one thing. You know your body is doing well. Be consistent. If time get in the way, your will get in the way, other people to get in the way of your way, then at least give yourself grace. But if you can, be consistent as much as you can. Think about the end result and the consequences of what that can do to your body. And that can really drive you forward as a positive thinking or positive motivation to do that. This time I talk about motivation and stable feeling pattern. Sometimes we don't think we eat enough. And if we don't eat enough, then we feel tired. And if we think we eat too much, we will still tired, then go back into what type of food that we are eating, because those right, delicious, nutritious dense versus empty calorie are a big different thing. and recovery capacity, that give yourself some rest to really go back into nervous system and calm and have a way to really stabilize and calm it. And if you can't do yourself, then find a class, find a community, social support, your friends. Hey, texting, can we just go to a walk together, or a class of yoga, or any type of exercise movement together? Because as a group, the energy tends to be more heightened. Targeted support when appropriate. Advocate for yourself. Find a provider that fight with you, that look for something deeper to help with yourself, and that could be a good way to get started. Small adjustment will lead to accumulated benefits, and don't give up. Health has a way of getting to the right place. So I just highly recommend to not give up, and we always have a different support in the community for all of you. So when testing may be helpful, consider when your progress plateaus, when symptoms persist and the patterns feel complex, but we can't figure anything out yet, and the multiple system involved. If you feel like, I'm looking for different things testing here, can I ask my provider what they think? A lot of clients do that to me. They just go for ChatGPT, what do they recommend? And they ask me, what do you think about it? So I do a lot of like deep dive and research. So it's very fun for me, at least. I love to research different things when people are involved. And not everyone needs testing. If these become too overwhelming for you, take a break, one thing at a time. Okay, so this is a personalized plan strategy. You can take a picture, go back into the slides, and this is about stress resilience, different strategy that we talk in week 1, metabolic flexibility, we talk in week 1 and 2, hormone rhythm, about a cortisol level and different type of hormone for thyroid, estrogen progesterone support, go back to read that too. Digestion function, we didn't talk much, but I would say digestive enzymes from pineapple, papaya, or even a little bit of apple cider vinegar with water, as long as you don't have ulcer. Just be careful, or esophagitis, which is an inflammation in your esophagus. Kimchi, sauerkraut, those are great if you can tolerate. And nutrient optimization, I want to emphasize 40 plus different kind of plant-based per week can really help diversify microbiome. I did a GI math for a client this morning. We reviewed together. We thought she eat healthy until we realized, oh, your microbiome is not diverse enough. Everything is on the left side where it's low. So we want to really maximize the diversity. And reduce any seed oil, dairy, gluten as inflammation, deep fry or simple sugar to reduce inflammation, reduce the toxic load for your body. So last week we talked about the spring recovery plan. We come to day 5. Today is simplify. Come back to the basics. Morning light, 80 ounces of water or half a body weight, as long as your kidney is working. Daily movement, pick one, go with it. Protein-rich breakfast, first bite is breakfast, at least 20 to 30 grams in the morning for breakfast. Whole foods as much as possible, and consistent bedtime for your sleep. Okay, so thank you so much for attending so far. Now we open up for questions, and in the slide you can see the scan for resources, so you can have all of the recording and everything. If you're curious about working with me or schedule clarity just to have me go through what's going on with your life, your health, feel free to schedule that. I open up about 12 spots for this month for the cohort. So that's pretty good time. Any questions for now, please drop in the chat. Yeah. Any
Thank you.
feedback? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Evelyn. I'm wondering, do you think we could get a copy of those steps? Would that be
Yeah.
possible?
In the resource, I have the recording and the
Yeah.
slides as well. So if people going through that, scan the QR code, and then you will receive slides from part 1, part 2, part 3, and a recording for all of those 3. But I can also send you the email.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Yeah.
What a wealth of information. I really appreciate this. I'm excited to implement some of these things for myself. Um, Ready to feel energized.
I know sometimes it can feel overwhelming with the amount of information. And I would say just pick one thing you know you do, then consistently do it, and then stuck with another. Um, Go back and then go with another habit. It will help for long term.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we don't have any other questions, again, thank you, doctor. And
Thank you so much.
absolutely, we look forward to seeing you again.
Of course. Yeah. Well, have a great time on your Thursday night. Yeah. And thanks for attending. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Good,
Thank
good
you.
night, everybody.
Thank you, Shannon. Bye bye.